Hey everybody, welcome back to a new video. Today I'm going to show you how to add some textures, how to create some cinematic lighting, and how to do some quick renderings in Cinema 4D. We're going to use the model of the skateboard that we modeled on the last tutorial, which, by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, I'm going to link it down below so you can go and watch it if you want to start from the beginning and model your own skateboard. But if you just want to learn how to add textures and how to light and how to render quickly in Cinema 4D, you can just watch this tutorial, but I will recommend you to watch the how to model the skateboard so you can get a better understanding of how we created this awesome skateboard here in Cinema 4D. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to add some textures. We're going to double click down here and we're going to open. We're going to give the skateboard a few different colors, and we're going to change the color right here to something like that. And then here on the reflectance, we're going to remove the one that we have as default, and then we're going to add a new one, and then we're going to go to GGX, and here we're going to go down to layer Fresnel, and we're going to choose dielectric, and we're going to, here you can actually use different presets that Cinema 4D gives you in order to whatever you want the texture to look like. In this case, I want my my whole skateboard to look kind of like plasticky, kind of like a toy, so I'm going to choose this one right here, PET, and then I'm going to add to my roughness a little bit. And then we're going to reduce the reflection so it's a little more matte and less glossy. And I think that is gonna be good. Now that we have that like that, we're just gonna close that, and we're going to select the skateboard. I actually have already this physical sky here that we're going to talk about a little more later in the tutorial, but for now we're just gonna disable it, and we're going to choose our polygons mode right here, and then we're going to make sure that we are, that's why actually I should have named our polygons over here, so I'm gonna name it board. It's always good practice to name all your polygons or layers or effects that you're using, which I didn't do before, but I should have done it. So right now we have the board selected, and as you can see we have different polygons on the board. So what we want to do is you can actually apply the texture to each polygon individually, but that's not going to be that efficient. So I'm just going to click on the first one and then press Ctrl A to select all of them. And as you can see, you can select the whole thing, and then I'm going to click on my first texture that we created, and then I'm going to drag it on top. And now just like that, we have our first texture on our skateboard. So now let's say that you don't want to apply a color texture to your skateboard or to your model, and you actually want to import a texture that you either purchased from the internet or downloaded from the internet. So the process is basically the same. You're just gonna double click down here to create a new texture. You're going to open that new texture, and then you're going to navigate and find the texture that you want to import. In this case, I'm going to use some textures that I purchased a while back from Video Copilot, and these are going to be for the wheels that I'm going to use. So I want the wheels to look also kind of plasticky, but a different kind of plastic. So I'm going to go down here where it says plastic maps, and then I'm going to choose something like this, plastic grunge. Click OK. You can say no, I don't need that. And now as you can see, you have the texture applied to your color. So now that we have the color right there, we have our texture. We have our texture uploaded to our color. So we can we're gonna name these wheels texture, and we're gonna close this. And now we make sure that I select the wheels, and then we're going to drag our texture and drop it right there. And now, unfortunately, we also apply the same texture to the cylinder right here, which we don't want. So we're gonna undo that. And so again, we're just gonna click on the wheels, and we're going to actually drag the texture right there. And now we apply the new texture to our wheels. We're gonna do a quick render just to kind of look to see what this looks like. Pressing this button right here, render view, and it's looking pretty good. As you can see, we have the blue color on the board, and we have the plastic on the wheels. Awesome. So next step, we're going to actually give some texture also to this part right here and to the cylinders right here. So the process is basically the same. So I'm just gonna fast forward that. So now we're gonna add some light, and the first step of how we're gonna light this skateboard is we're going to use our physical sky, which if you go up here to the top menu and then you click on the floor, then you have this other menu that appears, and then you can choose physical sky right here. I already have one on my project, so I'm just gonna click off this. But if you don't have one, just click on physical sky, and that's gonna give you one automatically. And this is basically a really easy way to light scenes outdoors. And the awesome thing about the physical sky is that you can actually change the type of light that you're applying to your scene based on the time of the day and the date, which will give you a very accurate version of what the light would look like at certain times and actually in certain locations. You can actually choose a city, you can choose a continent, and it's pretty awesome. If you go to, let's say, Europe, and let's say we want to go to Italy and Napoli, and choose a different time, maybe more like 8 o'clock, actually earlier, so the light is a little nicer, 6:30, and this is 6:30 a.m. If you want like the sunset, you actually have to go to, it's kind of like military time, so you have to do like 16:19, and that would be like 6:30 p.m. in the States. And then we can do a quick render, clicking right here, and there you go. Looks pretty cool, and that gives us a really nice base of very soft lighting, outdoor lighting, daylight that you can use and you can modify. So if you go through all these menu here, if you go through the sky menu, the sun menu, you can change the intensity, you can change the color, temperature of the light, the saturation, the hue, the gamma, all kinds of stuff. Take a look at it. It's really awesome. I really like to light scenes with physical sky first when my scenes are supposed to be daylight light or they're supposed to be outside. So take a look at it. It's awesome. So this already looks kind of cool, but next we're going to add a little base and a background. So we actually have some light bouncing of this background into our skateboard, and that's gonna take us and then we're going to add a couple more lights, and then we're going to render it, and it's going to look much better. So we're going to go up here, and we're going to add a plane, and we're going to scale up our plane a lot more. And first, we're actually going to move our skateboard up just a little bit. Perfect. So let's put it right about there. And now we're going to scale up our plane a little more. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add some segments to the width. And we're going to lower the segments to the height because we don't really need it. We're going to go up here. We're going to add a bend object to the plane. And as the name says it, we're going to bend the plane with this bend object. So we're going to scale up this a little bit. So we're going to add the strength to the bend right about there to about 90 degrees. And then we're going to change the rotation of the bend so it actually bends our plane. So we're going to make sure that you select the bend, then we're going to then we're going to rotate it right about there. We're gonna go 90 degrees here as well. And then we're gonna go right there. And now what we can do is we're going to, and now what we need to do is we have to make the bend a child of the plane. So we're gonna click on it and we're gonna drag it down and making sure that the arrow is pointing down. We're gonna let it go. And here we have our bent background and floor. And if the outline of the bent object is bugging you, you can go up here to the filter menu and then just click on the deformer, and that's going to not delete it but hide it so you don't have to see it the whole time. And then if you want to see it again, just go back to the filter menu and then click on deformer. Whoops. And there it is. Cool. So we're gonna give our background and floor, we're gonna give it a texture. I'm gonna give it a color, maybe a purple. Why not, right? And we're gonna make it look kind of plasticky as well. So we're gonna remove the default reflectance. We're gonna add a new one, GGX, layer Fresnel. We already saw this, so it's basically the same thing. Not conductor, but dielectric. And PET. And let's make it, whoops, not that much. Let's make it a little more matte, less glossy. That looks okay. Let's name it background. And click on it and drop it on the plane. And there you goes. I'm gonna do a quick render, see what this looks like, and we start to get something more interesting. All right, cool. We have some shadows going on, and the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add a couple of extra lights just to make our scene look a little better. So we're gonna go up here to this light bulb on the top menu, and we're gonna hit area light, and we're going to click on it. Oops. And we're going to bring it back out, and this is gonna be our key light. I'm gonna rotate it so it's facing the skateboard. I'm gonna bring it up. We're gonna extend it more, make it nice and big, rotate it. Oops. Right about there. And then we're going to add a fill light. So we're going to duplicate this light, click on the light, press the control key and drag it down. That's going to duplicate it, and we're going to move this light to the side. We're going to rotate it, and we're going to move it back. Oops. We're back a little bit, and we're going to go to the light menu, and we're going to lower the intensity to about 30, 33, 34, actually 32. All right. And the last thing, actually not the last thing, but now we're going to create a camera. So we have a camera ready. So every time we move, we can always go back to our camera shot, which let's say I kind of like this one right about there. Looks pretty good. Let's do a quick render, and I think that's looking good. That's looking pretty good. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to create a quick render. Rendering in Cinema 4D can get a little complicated, but I'm going to show you very quick how to do it, kind of like the basics. So if you go, we've been actually rendering. When we're clicking on the render view, we're actually rendering our scene. But you can go here to the render settings if you want to add different settings or change the settings that you currently have. And one of the things that makes 3D render more realistic is having shadows and having your objects interact with shadows and light. So in order to do that, you can add things like global illumination and ambient occlusion, which are going to make your renders way look way better, but at the same time it's gonna take way longer to render. But for now, we're just gonna do a quick render. We're gonna add actually, so you can see some ambient occlusion, and we're going to go to 250 here, and then 250, and then this is gonna be 50, and then we're actually going to add global illumination as well. We're gonna keep this one right here, the irradiance cache, and we're gonna do it on both. And the higher the gamma is, the brighter your scene will be. So we're just gonna go about maybe 5, and we're going to see what this looks like. If you want to save this still, you can do the path right here, but you can also save it after you actually render it. So once you change your rendering settings, you just close that window, and then you can go right here and go to render to picture viewer, and that's going to start rendering. Once your render is complete, if you want to save this as an image, I render this as a 1280 by 720 image, and you can click right here and save image as. Format, you can choose any of these formats. I usually choose a JPEG or a PNG. I'm just gonna choose a JPEG right now, and I hit OK, and I'm going to save it. Texture tutorial render. Hit save, and that should be it. And that's it for today, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoy this kind of content, Cinema 4D, After Effects, VFX, 3D kind of tutorials, let me know in the comments below. I can make some more for you. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That'll be awesome. And don't forget to like the video, and I will see you all on the next one.